There are two diametrically opposing reactions of the murder of Charlie Kirk that happened yesterday in Utah. The left, the Democrats, sitting presidents, are condemning this political act of violence and offering their thoughts with the family and supporters of Charlie Kirk. The right is calling for an all out war against Democrats. This seems to be coordinated. This seems to be intentional. And it is chilling to the bone as Pumps and I sit here and have still a First Amendment right to express our disagreement with other influencers like Charlie Kirk, and also state how saddened we are that somebody in the United States of America is shot from a sniper's nest on a university campus. And so here's just a sampling of what is happening on the right wing. Pop up the first tweet, Kylie. Matt Forney says, for years, the radical left has compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis. This type of language is directly responsible for the terrorism we're seeing in our country today. Trump is going to destroy the left once and for all. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. We're doing it for you. And I want to point out that as of filming this right now, there is no suspect. And when there is no suspect, there is no motive. Nobody knows right now who killed Charlie Kirk or why. They definitely wanted to kill him, and they definitely had the skill to kill him and had an opportunity for this to be a mass shooting situation. And it was clearly very targeted at Charlie Kirk. And I want to state that I condemn it with everything in me, but I also condemn the responses from MAGA influencers like him. And I also condemn the response from the sitting president of the United States who riled up a violent insurrection on January 6th. And this same MAGA influencer, a couple hours later, after he sent the first one, then he sent this. Charlie Kirk being assassinated is the American Reichstag fire. It is time for a complete crackdown on the left. Every Democratic politician must be arrested and the party banned under RICO. Every libtard commentator must be shut down. Stochastic terrorism, they caused this. And so let's go back in history and let's arm ourselves with what a Reichstag fire was. So I want to point out to you that initially he says they called us Nazis. And that's what killed Charlie Kirk. And then 2 hours later, he calls for this to be the right's Reichstag fire. What is a Reichstag fire? Put it up, Kylie. A Reichstag fire was a major event in Germany on February 27th, 1933, when the Reichstag building, the German parliament in Berlin, was set on fire. A young Dutch communist named Maurits van der Lubbe was found at the scene and arrested. The Nazis, led by Adolf Hitler, quickly blamed communists in general for the fire. Using the fire as an excuse, Hitler convinced President Hindenburg to issue the Reichstag fire decree, which suspended many civil liberties like freedom of speech, press, and assembly. This allowed the Nazis to arrest political opponents, especially communists and socialists, and helped Hitler consolidate power. In simple terms, the Reichstag fire was likely started by one man, though some think the Nazis may have staged it. But it gave Hitler the perfect excuse to crush his opponents and turn Germany into a dictatorship. So this is what's happening on the right now. They're saying the left caused this because they called us Nazis, and they use comparisons to our school of thought and the way that we want to govern with 1930s Germany. And I want to remind you that Mitch McConnell has done this, that Marco Rubio has done this, and that the sitting vice president of the United States has also made these same comparisons about the MAGA regime before they flipped. And then a couple of tweets later, this same MAGA influencer calls for Nazi-style governing and said, this is the right's Reichstag fire. And the purpose of this was what they're doing right now is they're blaming the left for all of this. They're talking about incarcerating people like Pumps and me. They're talking about arresting Democratic politicians. The difference is there's no communist here, but it's liberals, the left. That's what they're doing. They're calling for this to be a Reichstag moment. And the next step, because when authoritarians get power pumps, their number one goal is to keep it. The next step in this, you guys, is going to be some sort of emergency action to suspend civil liberties. This is a very, very dangerous moment for the United States of America. And the reaction on the right to stoke more fear, to call for more violence, chills me to my bone.
I completely agree. And I was not aware of that. So thank you for sharing that. And I look at this and I think Trump has been trying to gerrymander the states so that we cannot have elections in 2026 that come out and fill Democratic seats with Republicans because he does not want to lose power. But if you take away the power of the press, free speech, and assembly, you don't have to worry about that because you continue to have the power. Calling emergencies, this immigration emergency, the tariff emergency. Now we have this gun violence emergency that is being blamed on a group of people when we don't even have a suspect in custody.
They've already started this. They've already started blaming this whole thing on the left. And we have no idea who it is because the FBI is run by two podcasters who have no business running the FBI. And that would be like Pumps and I running the FBI. It's insanity. And the Trump regime has already defunded programs and funding and shed the FBI of people who focused on domestic terrorism. And so we're in a very critical juncture right here. And when you have the president of the United States and his influencers and his supporters, politicians, Nancy Mace said immediately right afterwards that she blamed the Democrats. There seems to be a message, a coordinated, responsive message by the right to immediately blame the left. And we don't know who shot him. And I can't help but think that the next step in this is some emergency order with the Supreme Court, and they have proven to go hard in the paint for him whenever they can, and to suspend civil liberties. And I'm not even remotely being hyperbolic. You might remember Kamala Harris said if we do not stand up to Vladimir Putin, he's going to go into Poland. 48 hours ago, drones over Poland. This is a horrific time in American history, and the leadership that we have at every turn, it seems like they always want to silence dissenting voices. And their argument is going to be, oh, the left silenced Charlie Kirk. I do not want to live in a country where somebody that I disagree with is gunned down and killed. That is not what democracy is. That is not what the First Amendment is. And every single left person that I have seen online that has stature or has been a politician or a sitting politician has condemned this, and we condemn it. But it doesn't work the other way. When left-wing people are shot, or killed, or violence is against them, the right wing seems to kind of support it. You had Donald Trump Jr. tweet when Nancy Pelosi's husband was beat up by a man in a hammer. He tweeted a pair of tidy whities and a hammer. I got my Paul Pelosi Halloween costume ready. Charlie Kirk, who was just murdered, he said he wanted a patriot to go get bail for the guy that beat up Nancy Pelosi's husband. And so this is what happens in these types of governments. They can say and do whatever they want to with impunity, and then they're going to control and attack dissenting voices. And Bakari Sellers had a good tweet in response to Trump's Oval Office thing. And he said, Trump didn't mention the plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, the storming of the Capitol, the pipe bombs left at the DNC, the break-in to kidnap Nancy Pelosi, and the brutal attack on Paul Pelosi, the assassination of Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, and the shooting of State Senator John Hoffman and his wife. And there's more. You can go on and on. There was attempts for the governor of Pennsylvania, and you don't see us immediately saying we need to go at war with all of the right wingers. They're creating an imaginary problem that we are trying to silence dissenting voices. What we are trying to do on the left is educate the American public about what's happening. What is happening right now with the erosion of civil liberties? And my fear is, you guys, my my instinct here is that tweeter that called for this being the Reichstag fire and the coordination within the first few hours of Charlie Kirk's horrific murder seemed to be, let's go to war with everybody on the left. And so this is a very insane time to be alive. This is a very insane time for democracy, but you need to arm yourselves with facts and what I think is coming next. That's all we have for this episode, and we'll see you all later.